Hey guys, how you doing? Sorry the way that last video ended. I'm gonna pick up approximately where that last video ended off. We're watching Follow the Leader, my 18th all-time, or rather this segment, this sequence from Follow the Leader as being my 18th all-time favorite sequence from Lost in Space.
Let's go. Foolish Earthman. I have destroyed armies, and you dare to pit your puny strength against me? You may consider yourself fortunate. I'm usually not so lenient with my enemies. I've spent many centuries in this cave. Perhaps you will enjoy it.
Alright, so that was, as you see, there was not much left of that sequence. But that's okay. Okay, so that is number 18 on my countdown, my 18th all-time favorite sequence from Lost in Space. We are now down, or rather up, well, this is a countdown, okay. So we're now down to number 17, my 17th all-time favorite sequence. Number 17 belongs from this episode, The Golden Man. Guest star Dennis Patrick. Also uncredited is Ron Gans, who appeared in many episodes of Lost in Space. Ron Gans appears in this episode uncredited, and Ron Gans even made a rather distorted appearance in a Star Trek Next Generation episode. Written by Barney Slater, directed by Don Richardson. Now, the Golden Man, two aliens appear on the planet, both at war with each other. I guess apparently these were two societies who were at war, and I guess they chose a neutral planet that had nothing to do with either one of them to fight their final war against each other. Now, I love morality plays. I think The Golden Man is one of the most memorable or most remembered episode of the series. And most talked about. It's a morality play about how looks can be very deceiving and things are not what they appear. And that's a lesson. It's sort of like a lesson lost of so This episode has to deal with prejudice on Lost in Space style. I think some fans considered it that. I tell you, when I first watched this as a kid, it was a very terrifying episode because I learned at a very early age that things are not exactly as they appear, and there is a lot of political undertones in this episode. And one of the things that are very significant, two things. One is harmless looking beach. I'll show this in a moment, okay? But propaganda, when you have two opposing people or societies or groups, it's very rare that both sides are against each other. Usually one side is against the other side while the other side wants to get along. So, put it simply, Society A hates Society B, wants to destroy Society B, but yet Society B has no ill will towards Society A, wants to get along with Society A, and are always on the defensive. And Society B does not trust Society A because Society A has shown itself to be deceptive. Now, deceptive and lying. We see this with the Democrats versus the Republicans, that the Republicans want to work together with the Democrats. However, the Democrats hate the Republicans and actually want to wipe them out. And they do so by spreading all these lies and damaging propaganda against the Republicans to make the Republicans as villains. Palestinians do the same thing against Jews and the Israelis. The Israelis want to get along with the Palestinians, work side by side with them, but the Palestinians hate the Jews and Israelis, and they spread all these lies and propaganda against the Jews and the Israelis. And this is no different. This episode shows this. And we have a frog alien who appears as he's grumpy, but he is not nefarious. He is not. He has no really ill will against anybody else. Actually, if you think about it, the frog alien in this episode is a little bit like Shrek. Okay, if you're all familiar with the cartoon movie Shrek, Shrek lives in a swamp. He has no ill will toward anybody. He just wants his privacy. He wants to be left alone. Okay? And he's just grumpy. And that's really his, that's all the bad that's about Shrek. Same thing with the frog alien. He's not a bad individual. He just is grumpy and likes to be left alone. The golden man, Mr. Kima, on the other hand, appears as handsome and golden and amiable and friendly and gentlemanlike, and it's deceptive. Because, not that that's being deceptive, mind you, but in making the comparison between the two societies, the two worlds who are at war with each other. If something appears too good to be true, it usually is. Okay, so now, as I said, as a kid, this episode terrified me. My heart was racing throughout this whole episode. As this episode is not, nothing is as it appears. I'll show you a few examples of this. Now, talking about things that are not as they appear, here we have a minefield. But at first glance, they're just a bunch of fun-looking, innocent-looking beach balls.
What's wrong?
They're trapped in a minefield.
The minefield?
So this sequence made me scared of beach balls, I'll tell you that right now. And here's a little bit of the propaganda that I mentioned, and putting the other side look bad so that they themselves look good. And this is an example of this. Now listen to what Mr. Kima says about that minefield of beach balls.
I'll try to get her out, Mrs. Robinson. Please, stay where you are. Judy's predicament is all my fault. It never would have happened if I hadn't come to this planet to fight a war.
That's what he says here. Now listen to what the Golden Man, Mr. Kima, says after Dr. Smith gives him all his weapons to help fight the terrible alien, terrible, supposedly evil alien that he's fighting against.
Dear Mr. Kima, I'm delighted to have been of service after all. What good is life if one cannot offer the hand of friendship? The hand of friendship. Yes. The hand of... Where is Mr. Kima? I am Mr. Kima. No, that can't be. That's impossible. Beauty is in the eye of the beholder, Dr. Smith. Look at me. Am I not as attractive as the Golden Man? But this doesn't make any sense. I needed your weapons to fight the leader of the Zedans. You would have found my true form repulsive and refused to give them to me. So I became the handsome Mr. Kima. But you saved Judy. I also planted the minefield. That was part of my plan to secure your sympathy and help. Now that I have what I wanted.
Okay, so now you've heard the deception, the propaganda, okay, and then he reveals his true self, but we, the audience, learns his true self earlier on in one of a sequence that really stands out. Now, I have to say that what I'm about to show you happens earlier on from this point. Penny was the only one, actually not Penny only, but Maureen Robinson, she had her doubts, but the one who really, really didn't trust Mr. Keema the Golden Man was Penny. And here the robot, this is one of the most underrated sequences. And I must say that both Bob May and Dick Tufeld, in going over the top, in their over the top performances here, are very underrated. And while from what you're about to see in and of itself, it's silly, it's funny, and you can laugh. However, based on what happens to the robot here, I sat there watching this and I was not laughing. Instead, I felt helpless, I felt sad and scared all at the same time. I was not laughing. It was not funny at all. It was tragic. And I guess you could say, to not so much manipulate the audience so much. The writing was phenomenal. To make something silly and over the top to not be funny and to be frightening, sad, and tragic all at the same time, that takes a lot of skill, editing, and amazing performances by both Bob May and Dick Tufeld. So here the robot is investigating Mr. Keema's camp and to finding out all about him.
Extremely naive and stupid. I'm sure they will give me the use of their weapons. With them, I shall easily conquer our enemy. When that has been accomplished, I shall then destroy the Earth's people. And with their own weapons.
So that little sequence with the robot is sort of like a bonus sequence. That's a favorite. And just because it's my favorite means I enjoyed it or I liked it. It means that it jumps out at me and becomes bigger than life. But here is a sequence that is at number 18. Or 17, I'm sorry. Number 17. And here is the segment that is number 17.
Now that I have what I want, there's no longer any reason to hide the truth. What are you going to do to us? First I shall destroy my enemy, and then to complete my victory, I shall destroy you. The other members of your party. You can't. We are your friends. You are my enemies. How would I be friendly with anyone so ugly and repulsive as an earthling? The very sight of you sickens me. Out! Yes, yes, it is. We must turn on the force field at once and prepare our defense.
You've been awesome.
Hurry.
Dr. Smith, you took the weapons to Mr. Keeler, didn't you?
There's no time to discuss that now. We're all in terrible danger.
You deliberately disobeyed my orders. I want you to just go right back there and bring those weapons here.
I can't. Oh dear, I've made a dreadful mistake. Mr. Kima is a monster. He assumed the form of the golden man, only to trick us. The light. You must have the light.
I knew there was a good reason why I didn't like him.
And you were so right, my dear. Oh, I'm so ashamed. It's just that he was so intelligent and charming, and all the time he wanted our weapons so he could destroy his enemy.
You're completely responsible for this. Now that Mr. Kima has what he wants, maybe he'll leave us alone.
I'm afraid not. He means to destroy us all. He told me so.
Maybe we could get the little alien to help us. Not after he learns what Dr. Smith did. It's worth a try, isn't it? Oh, Mom, please let me go.
Oh, absolutely not. It's much too dangerous. Now, Dr. Smith, do as I ask, please. Go and get the weapons and bring them back.
The little alien must be warned. You got us into this. Now you can get us out, right? Right. Come on. Penny, no. Come back.
I can't go on. I'm exhausted.
What's there, Dr. Smith?
Perhaps we can warn the alien later. I don't know.
What started, Dr. Smith? We can get up.
Okay, that's the end of the segment. Okay, that's the end of the sequence. So, That was number 17 from the Golden Man. That'll be it for now. Hope you liked it, hope you enjoyed it, and we will continue next time. Thanks for watching. Take care. Bye.